All right, Bill, excited to get started here. We're getting some people joining us. How are you doing this afternoon? Ready to rock?
I am ready to go, Raj. I can't wait. Really looking forward to this topic. One of my favorite.
One of your favorites. So it should be one of your favorites because you are the pros pro here. So let me go ahead and share my screen. We're not going to do much of a screen share today because as promised in the invite, we are going to, for the people that are joining and the room starting to fill up, we promised an action-packed Q&A session. So we're going to keep the slideware to a minimum. We're going to keep Bill the hero, and we're going to have a really good dialogue. So I'm really looking forward to it. Bill, for the people that are on early and we're doing pretty well here, any opening comments? Maybe you want to talk a little bit about yourself. Why don't will you open up? And, I love your story. I've heard it a couple of times because you and I are, digital friends, not IRL friends quite yet, but I've heard your story a couple of times. And I think your path from the traditional Salesforce and sales world coming into the online digital world is very relevant for a lot of people. So maybe you just want to start with that as we're waiting for people to join us.
Thanks, Raj. Yeah, welcome everyone. It's great. Thanks for taking some time to be with us today. I was involved in sales in the mid to late 90s. I know I don't look that old. I am, trust me. And listen, I was fired or demoted from every sales job I ever had. And so some of you right now are hovering over the end button and saying, I'm going to leave this, but stick with me. Back then, it was all about what you could get for your clients, not in the way of value, but third baseline tickets to the Yankees or 50-yard line tickets to the Giants. It wasn't about providing value. And so I left the world of sales and I was in public service for a while. My wife was in the print and promotional products world, and her boss suddenly died. Suddenly she wanted to start her own company. And guess who became the de facto salesperson because I had sales experience, even though it was really bad. She didn't care because she hated sales more than anything. So yeah, so I became the de facto salesperson. We quickly discovered LinkedIn was the place where we could find our ideal clients. And we found out that in that world, we were one of the early adopters. And so started using LinkedIn, finding clients, building our business. So that was July of 2013. By April of 2015, I was ready to leave my regular job and go full-time with my wife, which I did, which was fantastic. Then I had all these networking partners and friends like, hey, can you teach me how to use LinkedIn? So I started a side hustle, started doing videos and showing people how to use LinkedIn via video. We had a promotional products client in Bermuda that was a bank, and the marketing person was like, hey, we know you do LinkedIn training. Can you show our wealth management folks and our mortgage people how they can leverage LinkedIn? Can you train them? Being a good salesperson, even though I had no clue how to do it, I said, sure, I can do that. I was involved in an online engagement group on LinkedIn with Bryn Tillman, and she didn't know who I was. I certainly knew who she was because I used her book to basically craft my whole LinkedIn strategy. So I reached out in this chat group and said, I need someone to help me. Bryn, being the big person that she is, said, hey, listen, I work with bankers all the time. Let's get on a call. Let's see how we can work together. So we got on a call, figured that out. And we were I was going to white label her training, and we weren't talking about joining forces at all. But we happened to be in New York City one October, 3 years ago, at a LinkedIn event in the Empire State Building. And we were next to each other and kidding around. I turned to her and I said, so Bryn, now that I'm going to be using some of your material, can I put social sales link on my experience section of my LinkedIn profile? Figuring that it was going to give me some, some street cred. Sure. And she's like, yeah, you can join the team if you want to. And I was like, I got up off the floor, and I remember coming home saying, my wife saying, Bryn wants me to join her team. Like, it was a huge deal. And so that's how I got started. And happily, a year later, we actually went to Bermuda, Bryn and I, my wife tagged along, and we did the training for that bank. And I really haven't looked back. I don't work with my wife anymore. I'm basically full-time doing this, and I love every minute of it.
That's awesome, Bill. So the backstory and the reason I laughed in the middle of that is because Bryn Tillman, who is the CEO of Social Sales Link, is actually a real life friend of mine. She lives about 10 minutes away from me. We're in the same networking groups, and I think the world of her, and that's obviously how you and I met. So it's just funny how this conversation about social selling has so many overlaps here. So welcome, Bill. Thank you. It looks like the room is pretty full, and I appreciate going through your your background and your introduction. So what I'd love to do is just start everybody off. This is super interactive. This is not a one-way pitch to you or a one-way conversation at all. So the first question I have for everybody in the chat is, what is your self-perception? So rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is a LinkedIn expert. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you rank yourself? Are you a 1, which means you've just opened up your LinkedIn account yesterday? Or are you a 10 and you could be teaching this webinar to us and you're looking for a few tips? That helps me and Bill figure out what level we want to go hit some of those questions at, okay? As a little bit of background, we are attacking LinkedIn as a major vehicle from 2 different sides. This is a conversation. So my company is And Marketing. I know there's a bunch of people on here that I don't know, so it's nice to meet you. Welcome to And Marketing, and And Marketing U is a series of webinars that we use to educate and inspire our marketing audiences. And we use LinkedIn as an advertising and a brand building tool every single day. For a B2B audience, there is no better tool out there right now. And the pandemic that we're going through, however you look at it, has only dramatically ramped that up. So we run LinkedIn advertising programs routinely. We run brand building programs routinely. You can target your audience. It is really a marketer's dream when you're targeting a B2B audience. The other side of that coin is where Bill and his awesome team come in. So Social Sales Link is developing the premier tools and is the known thought leader for all things LinkedIn for salespeople. And what I often love to talk about, and you guys who have been on multiple of my webinars, what I talk about quite a bit is how do sales and marketing work together? So the real spirit of this conversation with Bill is absolutely to educate, absolutely to talk about social sales, but how to do that in the context of these 2 functions really working together. Okay, so Bill, what I also like to say about your team is not only am I a partner, a friend, and all of these things, but I'm also a student of yours. And the most inspirational or the most impactful comment that you, I think, have ever made is about LinkedIn is, how do you take your connections and turn them into conversations? So I'll give you that as a way to just talk about social sales. What does it mean? What does it mean on LinkedIn? And then how do we get connections to be conversations?
Well, thanks, Raj, and thanks for being not only a great supporter of ours, but a member of the community, and we appreciate that. And actually, we had Raj as, I think you were our first masterclass to our community, talking about this marriage of marketing and sales. So let's start with what is social selling. That's what we do. What I like to say is there are basically 4, just like a football team, LinkedIn has 4 different platforms. So an American football team, I should say, in case we have people from Europe and they say we do football wrong, but an American football team is basically 4 teams, right? You have offense, the offensive team, the defensive team, the special teams, and one that a lot of people forget, the coaching team. And for LinkedIn, it's basically one platform with 4 different uses. So you have recruiting and job hunting. You have what a lot of folks on this call is doing is marketing. That's what you do. You use it for the marketing. Then there's the business development side, which I say is sales and referrals. And then you have people like me, the coaching side of things. So one of the first things is to figure out where are you at in that? How are you leveraging LinkedIn as a platform? Because different features are going to help you in different ways. But what is this whole idea of social selling? If you talk to 10 social selling trainers, you'll get 10 different answers. Here's ours. Social selling is about building relationships, providing real value, and being a resource, and understanding that the sales will come when the time is right. What we do in helping people convert their connections to conversations is help them to understand that this is not a platform that gives you the ability to reach out and pitch to people directly. It gives you that ability, but the effectiveness is 0. It's very, very small. Unless you're in a real transactional commodity-based business, the chances that you're going to reach somebody at the moment they're ready to buy, that they see that pitch and go, oh yeah, I need that, is slim to none. What we need to do is realize that we have to earn the right to have a conversation with someone. The days of walking in and saying, hey, we help companies just like you, it doesn't work. We have to start treating the people on the other side of the screen as if they're on the other side of the table. People on the other side of the message you're sending out, whether it's a connection request or it's an in-mail or it's an email even, we have to treat them as if they're on the other side of the table, like a human. So we have to earn the right. We have to master the ask-offer ratio. In any interaction we have with people, we're asking them for their time. It's the one thing they can't make more of in their lives. So it's very valuable. So when we're asking them for that time, what we need to do is give them something in return that's of equal, but better yet, of more value to them. And so we have to look at every interaction like that. Are they getting value from this? Many times there's basically 3 responses to the ask-offer ratio. The first is a bait and switch. Hopefully for all of you on this call, this ask-offer ratio is going to be huge today. And you're going to come away saying, yeah, and marketing and Bill, they gave me such great return on this time. But how many times have you signed up for a webinar? 30 minutes, we're going to teach you the 3 top email techniques to get more of your emails open. You're like, yes, I need that. And you sign up for the webinar, and for 25 minutes, they pitch you on their email writing software with, it's a $900,000 offer for today, only $99 for you. But wait, there's more. And then in the last 5 minutes, they talk faster than I talk right now, giving you those 3 tips in staccato fashion. And the webinar ends and you're like, that was a bait and switch. I can't get those 30 minutes back. So we don't want to do that. The other response to the ask-off ratio is, nah. It's kind of neutral. It doesn't really mean anything. And for those of you that are marketers here, what you really need to understand is mastering that ask-off ratio, we want to compel them to action. That's the third response. We really want to make it compelling. And then the last thing in converting connections to conversations is being a resource. We often say, well, I just want to help people. I just want to help people. Stop saying that you want to help them and just help them. Give, give, give. I think it was Michael Port that said, give so much value away that you think you've given too much, and then give some more. And that's something that we try to live by in everything that we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Perfect advice. And that's absolutely right on how I look at social sales as well. So we're starting to get some answers. So Bill, for your grounding, we've got a whole bunch of different responses from respondents. I'm seeing a number that is somewhere between 3 and 4 on the low end, and we got a few people that have 9s, and most people are clustered in that 4, 5, and 6 sort of range. So I think we've got a good level of understanding of LinkedIn, and I think folks are looking for some of that more advanced level of LinkedIn. So what we're going to talk about today here on this webinar, again, not to be bait and switch, we want to drive right to the value, is how sales and marketing teams should be working together to maximize LinkedIn. So I'll bring the marketing perspective, Bill will bring the sales perspective. How do we create content to help your sales team attract their ideal clients without being salesy? And then the third one is maximizing results based on what we know about the LinkedIn algorithm. I learned so much from you and your team about the LinkedIn algorithm that it's completely changed the way that I post and the way that I interact. So I really want you to leave some tidbits with the team there. So again, what I'll ask people is, any questions that you have, go ahead and put them. I've got 3 or 4 questions already queued up for you, Bill. So I'm going to jump into the questions, but I'll remind everybody, go ahead. The Q&A is live. The chat is live. I'll be monitoring those both and trying to manage all the questions. And if we don't get to your question, we'll do our best. If we don't get to it, we'll probably email out or do a LinkedIn post to the response. Okay. So Bill, let's jump in for that first question. It's totally related. It's so the question here is, how do I, as a marketer, create better content for my sales team? So it's that very first question. So how do you advise we find good content? Because I think they're saying they're lacking enough or lacking the right content.
So first of all, we have to start with, it's not sales sheets or product specs and features and benefits. People don't know that they care about that yet. We haven't earned the right. What we have to do is start with social listening. And that can be marketers and salespeople. And what we mean by social listening is, I say we listen with our eyes. What's the problem that you solve, that your product or service solves? And who are those clients that need that solution? And what content are they consuming? What is helping them? And if we can socially listen to that and understand that, we can create content that speaks to that, because people don't buy products or services, they buy outcomes. And so what is the outcome that your client desires? And we have to look for and create content that helps them reach there. And I think also for sales and marketing, we have to get out of the silos, right? And we have to both be on the bridge. The bridge is business development. The bridge is serving our clients. rather than being in the silos of I'm over here in sales, I'm over here in marketing, we need to communicate and see, okay, this is what we tried. This is what works. This didn't work, and not pointing fingers. Well, Raj, if you would just create the perfect content piece, I'd be able to get plenty of clients. And you say, well, Bill, if you would just use the content piece right, the way it was intended, you get more clients. And so we have this butting heads. We don't realize we're both on the same team. We're trying to do the same thing. And so when creating content, there's basically 5 things we want it to do. We want it to resonate with our ideal client or prospect. So who is it targeting? Who is it aimed at? It has to resonate. When they start reading it, they have to go, oh yeah, this is me. Then we want to create some curiosity. Bryn calls it the pug tilt, when the dog kind of turns its head sideways when it hears something funny. I call it a lean in moment. When people, have you ever read something and you get closer to the screen, like, did I read that right? Right? Because that creates curiosity. We want to teach them something new that gets them thinking differently about their product or the product or the solution you provide. And when we are able to do that, we then get the 5th thing, which is more raised hands. People saying, yes, tell me more. Yes, I want to know more. Yes, please send me that link because this is what I need. And if we can do that on both the sales and the marketing side, we're then on a bridge together and we're working together as a team. And then the enterprise does better because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. The point that I'll add about sales and marketing teams collaborating, and I can go on and on about this. I lived most of my life as a salesperson. Now I run a marketing company and I do the sales for my marketing company. So I really live in both worlds. And we deal with this. The number one challenge that a lot of our clients face is because the marketing department can get you as many leads as possible, but if the sales team doesn't execute on them or they're not good leads, they're of course not going to be successful. So I think the 2 keys to that whole relationship to being successful are communication, and you talked about that earlier. They have to communicate. Marketing needs to hear what's happening on the front line, and they need to incorporate it in their materials. And they need to communicate back with the sales team to make sure the things that they're producing are effective. That's communication. It's not just once in a while. It's not just once a month. It's all the time. So create those mechanisms. The second one is simple. It's metrics. If the marketing department is held to a standard of MQLs or downloads or awareness or all of these other worthless metrics that don't actually move the dial, and the sales team is only accountable for sales, they're of course going to live in 2 different worlds.
Right.
Make them measured on the same thing and make that as close to the customer revenue number as you possibly can. Those are the 2 linchpins I found in my experience.
And,
one of the things. Yeah, go ahead, Bill. Sorry, go ahead.
I just add one more, and that's the adjustment. Based on that communication, based on the metrics matching, now what adjustments do we have to make to fine tune, to widen, to focus, and making those adjustments on the fly? And if there's enough communication between marketing and sales and marketing, that can be done. And so you end up with a much greater return on investment or return on time than you do if you're waiting around and not making those adjustments.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a question that just came in here. So I think it's exactly on this tone. And so this is talking about profiles, and they're saying, how can I optimize my profile to be more appropriate to do social selling? So it's not exactly the question, but I'm interpreting it a little bit. So maybe you can talk about that. Maybe you want to do a screen share or something like that. Feel free to do it.
Yeah. So let me share my screen, and I'm gonna bring up. Let me just turn sound on just in case, and let me just bring up a new window. I got to move y'all see my notes.
It's all good.
I like to be prepared. So let me bring up my friend Bryn's profile. So remember those 5 things I just talked about for content? Guess what? Your profile, it's content. People read it. So it's got to resonate, right? So when people land on it, they have to know that you're speaking to them. And that starts with what we call above the fold, which is this whole area up here. So right now we've just launched a podcast, Making Sales Social. So we're promoting that. Make sure you're using this background banner image. Hey, listen, you guys are marketers. You should be able to market yourself in imagery with your background banner image. People expect that. You should have a good professional profile picture. But right here, your headline, it shouldn't be owner at and marketing. You have 220 characters and spaces to use here. What you really want to do is resonate with your right audience. Who do you help? How do you help them? What are the results that you bring and what it is you do? So you notice, who does Bryn help? She helps professionals. How does she help them? She helps them transform the way they sell by converting connections to conversations. And that's the results she brings. So using that statement, that space as kind of a statement for people when they look at going, yeah, she's talking to me. I want to read more. So just that simple part is helpful in people because you'll resonate. You'll create some curiosity. When you go down to the about section, if you were to read through all this, Bryn doesn't talk about herself at all. And that's the next point I'll make. Your profile is not about you. It's not about the awards you've won. It's not about your pedigree or how long you've been in your industry. I hate to break this to you. Nobody cares. What they care about is their problem, right? They've got an outcome they need and they need help with it. So you need to write your profile, not from a resume standpoint, but from a resource standpoint. What we say is create a value-centric profile that's about your ideal client. So hopefully that helps whoever asked that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a common trap here that I hear, so the number one common trap is people go to the LinkedIn default. So that is job title at current company. Many people still don't have a headshot. Some people have a headshot. It's not professional. So cleaning all of that up is I would say, the very base level. I would also say that even non-sales people have an opportunity to be found all over these other areas because they're searchable, right? So all of this is indexable and searchable. So when people have a problem and they're looking for it, either specifically on LinkedIn in that little search box at the top, or just in a regular Google search, the words that you put in there matter a lot. So make sure you're addressing the problems that people are solving. Even, let me just say this, it's definitely true for anybody who's in sales and business development, but even if you're not, even if you're in a marketing role or in a different role at your organization, you have a real chance to talk about the problems that your company solves.
Yeah,
I'd say those are some of the things I see happening all the time because we're brought in to do company LinkedIn profile makeovers. We're brought in to do like CEO LinkedIn presence and things like that. So it's not just the sales team, I would say.
Yeah, keywords are very important. Using your keywords are very important throughout your profile, in the headline, in your about summary, in your experience section. Those are very, very important. Great point.
Yeah, so here's a great question coming in from Darren. So does social selling replace other sales methods such as cold calling, or is it meant to be a supplement? It seems like a great alternative for introverts. So maybe you can grab that. I certainly have an opinion. Go ahead, Bill.
I love this question. So if you talk to most social sales trainers, they're going to say social selling is the only way, right? That phone cold calling doesn't work anymore. And I believe that that's true, but I'm a LinkedIn trainer. I do no cold outreach at all. I don't have to, because when you have LinkedIn, you don't need to do cold outreach. But listen, I'm realistic. There are people who are stuck in jobs where their boss says you have to do X amount of cold calls a day just to get your quota, just for them to say, yes, you're doing your job. Look at it this way. All sales techniques, no matter what we're talking about, they're like golf clubs in a golf bag, right? They're all used in certain situations. You're never going to use a putter off of the tee box. You're just not going to do it. I mean, you can do it, but it's not going to do your game any better, right? You're not going to use your driver on the putting green. You're not going to do that. There's situations for each of these. For me, what social selling gives you the opportunity to do is to connect with people who you wouldn't normally run into in this new reality that we're in. McKinsey just said that they just came out with a report that said about 80% of companies that they polled said that they're going to make first-time sales calls with sales reps virtual across the board, right? So you're not going to be able to go and meet people in person. LinkedIn becomes a great place, and social selling becomes a great way for you to interact with people. And what we say is you can slow down your outreach to speed up your outcome. And that means you can connect with a few people on a close basis, who then you can leverage those relationships into conversations that could lead to sales. So does it replace cold calling? Not at all, but it can be a great supplement, and it can be a way so you don't have to cold call. so that when you make that conversation, when you make that connection, it's a warm connection, especially if you're using LinkedIn and looking for who knows who you want to know and asking for introductions.
Yeah. The plus one I would give to that, I would take it in a slightly different angle. So the marketing term for some of what you're describing is account-based marketing, right?
Right.
So one way to use LinkedIn, one way which we use LinkedIn for our client base, so this is a sort of an answer to Darren as well, is making it one of the key pillars of a multiple suite solution to go surround your target customer, right? The key to LinkedIn is something that Bill said a lot earlier, is you're not selling on LinkedIn. What you're doing is driving thought leadership or driving industry leadership, whatever the term you want to use, but you want to provide them information, you want to provide them help, you want to interest them, and you want to excite them on LinkedIn. On cold call, when you're doing a tactic like cold calling, again, cold calling still works. That's why people do it. And I refuse to believe that it doesn't work, because it does. And so when you are cold calling, you're looking for a meeting and you're looking to directly connect with that person. It is a much different perspective to have them surrounded via email, via cold call or a phone call, via LinkedIn and via other tools, because from a branding perspective, it actually makes smaller brands look bigger if you're approaching them from different areas. They get you, they understand you. If you remember, adults are like goldfish, right? So we have a 10-second memory, we forget things really quickly, you need to be reminded a lot. So having these different touch points in something like account-based marketing could really work. And then the second point, Darren, I am an extrovert, as you know, Darren and I know each other. I'm an extrovert, but I still believe that this applies to both introverts and extroverts. Equally, good salespeople can lie on both sides of that. You don't have to be a booming extrovert to be a good salesperson. I'm convinced there's a lot that introverts can learn. I think that does apply. It could be a great alternative, but to me, that's not a factor that matters in this very much.
No, and I think that the introvert extrovert thing, there are sales trainers who prior to the pandemic really kind of bashed using LinkedIn and bash social selling because they thought that people were hiding behind this electronic platform because they were afraid to pick up the phone. It's really funny because all of those sales trainers now have whole sessions on virtual selling and using LinkedIn. Why? Because the need became, it arose. The difference is don't try to cold call on LinkedIn because it's a whole different dynamic that happens. When you cold call me, I see a phone number and I may answer, I may hang up, whatever I do. You send me a cold email, I just delete it. When you reach out cold on LinkedIn, your picture shows up, the name of your company shows up, your name shows up. It's much more personal. And so I think we have to be very, very careful how we're reaching out to people on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's absolutely perfect. So I'm going to ask a question about the LinkedIn algorithm. So you guys are pros at knowing what are the latest and greatest on the LinkedIn algorithm. And you blew my mind with some of these facts. So you've got to screen share up, Bill. The question specifically is, how can you ensure your posts are seen? And I think that goes back to that LinkedIn algorithm. So drop some knowledge on us.
So let me first give credit where credit is due. I've got Richard Vanderblom's profile up here. Richard is based in the Netherlands. He is kind of the go-to in the LinkedIn world on the algorithm. He pays every year to have a study done, and he just came out with this. So if you go to Richard's page, you can he's got a 44-slide presentation here on what his findings were of the LinkedIn algorithm. So I highly recommend that, and I'll make sure I get these links to Raj so he can get them out to everyone. But so let's talk real high level of the LinkedIn algorithm. First of all, the LinkedIn algorithm is going to work differently for each person because our networks, it works according to your network. So everything I'm going to tell you is very high level. So first of all, when you post something, where does it go? It goes out to about 10% of your followers. So followers are who's following you and who's connected to you. So if you have 1,000 connections, that means that LinkedIn releases your post to about 100 people. Those 100 people have to be on LinkedIn at the time, and they have to engage in the post for the post to go further. So a few things. Build your network, build it smart so that you're building a good quality network of people who you know, like, and trust so that they'll engage on your content. Create content that will get engagement, not just thumbs up, but ask questions, Ask people to their opinions of things. The more comments that you get on a post, the farther the post will go, the farther that it will reach. Here's just a few stats along the lines of the algorithm. Overall, in the last year, from 2020 to 2021, we've seen about a 20% decline in reach. That's across the board. There's no explanation for it. It's just something that happened. In May of 2020, they instituted this new thing in the algorithm called dwell time. So in other words, the amount of time people have a post on their screen. So if you can create a post with more dwell time, it will reach farther. That's why documents do so well on LinkedIn, which basically are PowerPoints that you create into a PDF. People spend more time, they just seem to go further.
So in marketing, so just let me just clarify that point on dwell time. So in marketing, we would call that stopping the scroll, right? So somebody stops, it's compelling, it's a video, it's an image, it's an infographic, it's a really interesting piece of text or something. It gets people to stop either their desktop scroll or their phone scroll. That's what you mean by
correct.
Yeah.
And that's they just came up with a fancier name for it. And so polls are something that were instituted maybe about a year ago, maybe less than that time. On LinkedIn, time changes. I lose track, but polls are having ready for this number, 450% more reach than any other type of post.
Wow. So
really take advantage of that. Polls can be a great way for you to find out information. It's a great way to socially listen, to ask questions. And one of the ways we found out it works best is just don't put it out there for your newsfeed to find, but actually get it into the inbox of people whose opinions you respect. So I did a poll over the summer on sales training strategies and what sales leaders are looking to do between now and the end of this year in terms of sales training. I had 4 options. I actually took that post and I sent it and did a search for all the VP of sales and sales directors that I knew. And I started just sending that to people, and they can vote right from the inbox. So it's a great way to leverage that. So document posts have about a 250% further reach.
Wow.
Multiple picture posts have about 150% more reach. Articles, which is LinkedIn's blogging platform, have a 90% less reach than they've had. So those are just few of the numbers. So think about this when you post. Post when you have some time. First of all, don't use an auto scheduler. And I know as marketers, you like using auto schedulers. They're great. Use them for company posts. Don't use them for personal profiles. LinkedIn's algorithm does not like them, and you just won't have much success with them. Of course, if you are having success with them, that's your network, and that's how the algorithm treats you. But in our studies and in all the studies we've read, they don't seem to do well. Time of day and day of the week really don't matter anymore in this work from home environment. Actually, we're finding Saturdays posts go really well. We're reaching C-level and VP level of salespeople. On Saturday, they're getting work done that they can't get done during the week. And part of that is going on LinkedIn. They don't have time to do it during the week. So Saturdays work well for us. When you post, ask some questions. Tag people whose permission you have permission to tag. Use hashtags. They will help your post reach further. And for the first hour to 2 hours, if you're able to really nurse that post and respond to every single comment, that will increase the algorithm's reach because it'll see the post as having more value. Don't reshare posts. They don't really do much good. You're better off just recapping what the person said. If you're using company pages, make sure you're using the notify employees button so that they'll engage on the content, but have them also share that content, because your individual salespeople and marketing people will build their thought leadership if they're able to show content that you're creating. So there's a few real high level things with the algorithm.
Bill, take a breath. So what you just basically said, I mean, that was awesome. So what's really valuable is what I learned from that and immediately applied is if you see a post you like and you just want to press the share button and send it, don't bother. First of all, that was the biggest learning I had. They have far less reach, far less interaction, and LinkedIn, for whatever reason, they don't like that in their particular algorithm. The more content that you have in there, such as pictures, videos, articles, documents, and things like that. All of those tend to perform well, and Bill went through all of those pieces. So Bill, here's a targeting question. I got two almost identical questions,
Mhm.
and they're almost contradictory, so it's almost funny because I think the answer is absolutely yes. But Stacy and Bill are asking almost the same question in a different place. One person says, if you're targeting the person responsible for marketing communications in smaller to mid-sized companies versus larger entities, is LinkedIn still a good place for connecting? And then the other question is, are senior executives still on LinkedIn? So it's kind of funny that you got almost the same question. To me, as a marketer, what I love about LinkedIn is the answer is absolutely yes to both of those.
Yeah.
You can find them, use the search tools. Why don't you grab the second half of
Yeah.
that question?
Absolutely. So 98% of marketers in a B2B space, LinkedIn is the number one tool. They're all on LinkedIn. Higher level executives are on there. They may not be looking at their profile regularly. They may even have an EA doing it for them, but they're getting emails of the content. They're getting emails when you get a connection request. They get emails when you're commenting on their posts and engaging with them. So yes, the answer to those questions are yes. What you need to do, and I think the first question about small to mid-sized companies.
Correct.
So on the free version of LinkedIn, you really can't narrow down your search field as to the size of the company. On Sales Navigator, you can. You can actually, so the free version of LinkedIn, there's about 15 search fields. I think there's 26 search fields on Sales Navigator. And one of those search fields is size of company. And you can do, I believe it's 0 to 10. Correct. 10 to 49, 50, and you can go all the way up to 10,000 plus. So there you can really narrow down the size of the company. Without that tool, you would have to then go over to Google, start doing some other research on the size of the company once you've identified the right people who you want to connect with and target.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And even on the marketing side of that, you can absolutely do that. There's a couple of dozen of different tools. So depending on the marketing tactic you want, you can do title, you can do geography, you can do industry, you can do all of these different things, company size, all of these types of things. It's highly targetable. It is the most popular thing that we're working on right now when we're trying to target B2B audiences. So Bill, we're rocking, and I've got about 5 more questions. So you want to do a few more minutes, sort of rapid fire fashion?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about the difference between followers and connections, and how does that matter?
All right. So when you connect with someone, you're joining their network and you're allowing them to join your network. They can see who you're connected to. You can see who they're connected to. When someone just follows you or you just follow someone else, you may see their content in your newsfeed. That's it. There's no ability to see their connections. Connections are better than followers. And just an aside, if you've turned on creator mode, which is a brand new feature they just instituted, you're automatically defaulted to follow. So you'll see about an 85% reduction in connection requests. So if you're trying to build a network, turn creator mode off.
Okay, that's really good. That's really good. Okay. How are you able, Sean is asking, how are you able to measure reach on LinkedIn? And I'll ask a better question. Does reach even matter? But why don't you go ahead and talk about how you're able to measure reach on LinkedIn?
So from a marketing standpoint, if you're on company pages, you can look, there's some great metrics on organic reach on company pages in the analytics. Personally, all you can see when you share a post, besides the comments and the engagement, the likes and the reactions, is you can see what companies the people have viewed from, where they're located, and what their titles are. That's really all you can see. I don't care about that. What I care about are the comments I have and the conversations I'm able to turn them into. Because remember, I'm talking about sales. I'm talking about having a conversation. So I can have a post that gets 10,000 views. And if it gets 10 or 12 or 14 comments that are just, nah, I don't care about that. I'd rather have a post that had 100 views. I had 25 comments, and 3 of those comments turned into calls later on down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right. The analogy that I'll build in the marketing world used to talk a lot about reach, and I don't love reach as a great as a great metric whatsoever. Okay, so let's roll through a couple. Another 2 questions I'm going to combine. This is talk about how the world of professional services might be different. And then the other question is talk about how construction might be different. My answer to that is they're all on LinkedIn, especially the senior level people in those construction industries. They're all on LinkedIn. We have run programs with construction, facility management, and all of those types of things extremely successfully. And for Barbara, who's asking about professional services, they are absolutely on LinkedIn as a core part of their business. But Bill, I'll let you grab that one and run with it as well.
Yeah, they all are. And what we want to do is I'll go back to the original question where we talked a little bit about turning connections to conversations. It all starts with providing value. How can you provide value as someone who's providing services, maybe personal coaching, health and wellness? How can you create content that they're providing value for their end user? What can they teach them? What value can they give away? And the same for construction. It's all about identifying who your end user is, who that client is, socially listening to figure out what the problems they have are, and then creating content that helps them with those solutions or those desired outcomes, as I said. It doesn't matter so much the industry or the business sector that you're working with. Just about all of them are on LinkedIn. Are there some exceptions? Sure. A lot of B2C companies maybe aren't on LinkedIn. They're doing business on one of the other platforms. We do nothing with those platforms. We're strictly B2B with LinkedIn. It comes back to social listening and figure out what's the outcome that your clients and prospects are trying to achieve, and what content can you create and value can you provide to help them solve those problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely great answer. Paul's asking a question about video. So how do you feel about reaching out to a recent contact with a personal video? He says, e.g. Loom, but I think your answer is going to be, if you're going to do it on LinkedIn, try not to use Loom, try to use LinkedIn's native tool. But any advice that you have for reaching out through LinkedIn on video?
I'm gonna contradict you. So,
okay, bring it.
Video's fantastic. If you're connected with them, you can send them a personal video right in the messaging app of LinkedIn. This works fantastic. I've done this a number of times, especially if clients ghost us. You know, you've done a proposal, you send it out, you're hearing crickets. You try to email, you try calling them on the phone. I'll send a video message. Hey, just last weekend, or 2 weeks ago, I was in Syracuse. Company that we tried to do business with and it didn't work out. I was near their world headquarters. And so I did a video on the side of the road with their sign in the background, just saying to the guy, hey, I was thinking about you. I hope you're well. He came back, hey, that's fantastic. So I use BombBomb as my other video platform, because what that allows you to do is send the message personally. You don't have to put it on their news feed, but you can send it to them personally. I think video is fantastic. You're able to look the person in the eye. They're able to hear your voice and see your face. I wouldn't even say it's the wave of the future. If you're not doing video now as part of your outreach and your marketing and your business development, I think you're behind the curve.
Yeah, I would agree. Video is extremely hot right now. And yeah, what I meant was the use of the outside platforms versus LinkedIn's native video tool. So I agree with the video comment overall.
Let me tag it in. You're exactly right. If you're going to create a video and you're going to share that on LinkedIn, do it either through your webcam and post it directly to LinkedIn, or use it on your phone and post it as a video that way. If you do external links on LinkedIn, the algorithm will punish that because you're taking them away from LinkedIn. So
yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Next question is about LinkedIn company pages. What are the benefits of a company page? How should it intersect with your individual profile page? And I think this is pointed towards small companies as well as large. What I will say for sure, as the marketing department, if you ever plan on doing LinkedIn advertising, you must have a company page. You cannot do advertising through a personal profile. So depending on the aspirations for your business to ever do advertising, that's binary. And so the advice that I give to people who are even in smaller businesses, even in 1 or 2 person shops, is that you should be thinking about the long-term survivability, and you should bring a LinkedIn company page up today. And then what you do is you use your company page to promote your personal posts, and then vice versa, because you want that follower count for your company page to grow over time. If you just open up a company page and start advertising from it, people are going to notice that you have 4 followers. So you want that number to get up into the hundreds, if not the thousands, if not the tens of thousands. There's one feature, I don't know, Bill, if this is the one you're going to plan on pulling up right now. There's one feature that every admin on a company page should be doing on a monthly basis. And if you go into your profile and you go into your company page, it says invite your followers to follow your company page. Strongly urge you to do that every single month. The reason I say every month is that on the first of every month, you reset and you're only allowed to send 100 invites per month. So once you build a relationship with them, you want to invite them to your company page and you want that to grow. For large companies who already have company pages, use the feature that Bill talked about, that when you post something, you should share that with your employees so that they can engage with it, they can share the same information, and they can be evangelists for your company. So Bill, tell me what I got wrong there from a sales perspective.
Okay.
What else would you add?
You didn't get anything wrong. So basically what you want is you want to have a company page so your logo shows up here. So you notice Richard has his, and then it shows up down here. All right. And I'll show you what it looks like if you don't. So my friend Mitch here. So you see, he does not have a company page. So there's this pixelated image that looks kind of gaudy. All right. Nothing against Mitch, that he just hasn't built one yet. So you want to have that. And then what you want to do is, as Raj said, is you want to invite members. So in the admin tools here, you can go and you invite connections right there. And as Raj said, you get 100 invites a month. The great news is when somebody accepts your invite to follow, you get that credit back. So one of the things you can do is have several admins. You can have several admins on the page. They can all invite people. Again, you only get 100 invites. So if Raj and I we don't each get 100, we get 50 each, or we get 100 between us. So one of the things you can do, especially if you're a mid-sized company and only have one admin, add your salespeople as admins, have them go through the client list, because one of the things they added to this is you can filter now. You were never able to do that. So they can go through, and especially if they're in certain industries, if your salespeople are divided up in industries, they can search by industry, or if they're in geography, they can search by location, and they should be inviting their clients to follow. So again, as Raj says, you want to build that up. The big deal is posts are going to go further from a personal page always than from a company page. So post on your company page because you want to show activity there, but make sure that the other members of your team are also sharing that content and sharing it on their personal pages, because it's just going to go much further that way.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to do almost a final wrap here because we are going a little bit over time, but we're still getting a lot of interest and still getting a lot of questions. So I'm going to do a final call for questions. A great question came in about the value of hashtags, and this person says, I don't get it. And I love hashtags. So tell us about hashtags, Bill.
All right. So I'm not hugely versed on hashtags. Here's the thing. Don't hashtag stuff. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, say use the 50. 3 to 5 is the sweet spot with LinkedIn. More than that, and the algorithm will affect it negatively. So if you see people putting all these hashtags, it does no good at all. Hashtags are searchable on LinkedIn. So you want to make sure you're using hashtags that your prospects, the topics that your prospects are looking for and searching for. Also, we've heard, it hasn't happened yet, that the hashtags will be searchable on Google, will be indexed on Google. Here's what happens. The first 3 hashtags you use will actually are part of the URL of that post. So if you grab that post, you'll see the hashtags. Those keywords are listed there. That will be huge moving forward when that begins to be indexed by Google. We don't know when that's going to happen. LinkedIn's not very good at giving that information out. So when you're using those hashtags, you want to use ones not so much. So if you're in finance, you don't want to use the ones that all the other financial advisors are using, because as people search those or click on those hashtags, they're going to see all of your competitor stuff. Again, socially listening, what is it that your listeners care about? So we do a lot with sales trainers. We work with them. So I use the hashtags they use because the same clients that are looking for their stuff are also looking at mine. If you go to our website and go to our podcast, socialsaleslink.com/podcast, there are a few great episodes in there on hashtags where much smarter people than I talk about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So basically hashtags are a cut through to search for things. And so you want to have the most relevant hashtags where you want to be found or you want to find good information. So really that's what the hashtag is for across all social platforms. Bill is doing a great job of describing what that exactly means on LinkedIn.
Yeah. And
All right, Bill, I'm going to
I
start this.
recommend having a personal hashtag. It's easy to find your content. That way you can just search that.
Absolutely. That's a great tip. And then the last question I'm going to wrap with, and I'm going to actually do a quick screen share. So this one is really important because this is about LinkedIn etiquette. And the question here is, how are you suggesting to obtain permission to tag other people? Is it explicit permission or is it implied? And my plus one question to that is about what I call spam tagging. So Bill, I would love it if you addressed tagging people with their permission, without their permission, and maybe what that does to the algorithm.
So yeah, you should always have their permission. When you tag someone and they comment on the post, that helps the algorithm. It hurts if they don't. If they untag themselves, LinkedIn basically sees that as you spam them, and they push that post right to the bottom. Here's what I do. First of all, connect with them. Be connected to them. And if you don't know them that well, then send them a message. Hey, I'm writing this post on XYZ. I would love to be able to tag you. Are you okay with that? There's certain people I know I can tag Raj on anything, right? And I know that if I tag him wrongly, he'll let me know. We have that kind of relationship. So we were on a webinar, this webinar, Raj and his team have tagged me several times. That's given. That they don't need permission to do that. If you're sharing content from someone else, like say you go out on Forbes and you find a magazine article on something and you're going to use that, you can tag the person who wrote that if you can find them on LinkedIn. That makes sense. You're giving them credit. What stinks is when people tag you indiscriminately and it has nothing to do. So like somebody tagged me on marketing services for SaaS companies. I don't do anything with that. That would be indiscriminate. So just use good protocol. And, even when you're reaching out to people to connect with them, use good protocol, send a message, tell them why you want to connect. Most people, especially on LinkedIn, it's a networking site. We're here to help one another. And most people say, yeah, sure, you can tag me. But ask for permission first. It's always best.
It's the indiscriminate tagging that I refer to as spam tagging, that the person is just tagging somebody because they want more eyeballs to get on their post. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't relate back to me, my business, or something that I'm interested in, and I just don't really know the person, I will untag myself, and that will do a lot of harm to that person's algorithm. So I really suggest that you avoid it. So what I'd like to do is wrap with a question from everybody. Again, we've got a great group. We're still rocking. I would love to know, what is the number one takeaway you took from this past 50 or so minutes? We were supposed to go 30. We've been rocking a little bit longer, so I appreciate Bill's energy and persistence. But what's the number one? We got some great comments from people saying that the webinar has been really good. What's the number one key takeaway and the number one thing you're going to go do differently? So as you're populating your answers there, I'll just go through a couple next steps. So in the chat, I just put a couple of sets of links. The first one is to connect with me and Bill. So we're friends now. Go ahead and connect with us, but please do us a favor and tell us you met us here, because Bill and I also receive a ton of spam and a ton of spam invites. So if you mention that we met at this webinar for marketing and social sales link, and it was around this topic, we will absolutely connect with you. Mm-hmm. I'd love it if you followed marketing as a company page. I put that one in there. I'm sure Bill would appreciate the follow for Social Sales Link, but the actual ask here is that Social Sales Link has a top-notch online community. I know because our company helped them build it, but they have an amazing library of free content, on-demand webinars, members-only masterclasses, an interactive community where they talk about all of these types of things. So if you want to up your LinkedIn game or you want to stay sharp, I cannot possibly recommend it more. I'm a member of the community. There is a free option. I totally recommend the Sapphire option because it gives you a few extra things that can really give you the latest and greatest tools, and it gives you more access to Bill and their team. So that link is also in here. These slides will be sent out. I strongly recommend you guys checking that out, okay? So Bill, just to read back a few of those answers are the value of getting documents in your posts, do things differently, ask for followers on my company page, turn off creator mode, do videos via messaging. Great webinar. Number one takeaway is build connections to your company page. I think that's a great one. It's more important to add polls, documents, presentations. I tell you what, Bill, we spend 45 minutes doing all this stuff, and all people want to know is how to trick the algorithm. It's like every single time it happens that way. Inviting personal connections to the company page, turn off creator mode, LinkedIn algorithm, limit the hashtags to 3 or 5. So yeah, these are exactly the things we were hoping people would get out of them. And I don't know, Bill, if you have any closing comments or anything that you'd like the group to do, or any questions that you might have of them.
So I'd be very interested to know how many you came in and thought you were like a 6, 7, 8, or 9, and now you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm a little lower than that. I always say I'm about an 8. So those that you were 9, maybe you could have jumped in. But but the thing is we're always learning. Listen, LinkedIn always changes, and those that want to, there's really no way to trick the algorithm. It's consistency. So I quote this all the time. James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits, said, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. If you don't have a system in place to use LinkedIn, you're not going to master it, and it's going to frustrate you, and you're going to look for more tricks, and you're going to look for automation. By the way, automation will get you shut down on LinkedIn. So don't do that. It's about consistency. Come join us on one of our coaching sessions. Come with a question. I think you'll enjoy the camaraderie of the group and the networking. And you can come for free. Just reach out to me. I'm happy to extend an invitation.
Yeah, a bunch of people are saying exactly what you expected. What I will tell people is I ran a real experiment after consuming a bunch of social sales and content. And then 1 month early in the year, it was February, I literally told myself I would post something every single day. I would make something, I would post it every single day. That month, not directly because of my posts, I got 4 leads from LinkedIn. 4 real leads for my real business. They were real qualified people. And they say things like, hey, I saw your post. It's not exactly related to this, but here's a question. And it led to real conversations. So the truth of what Bill is saying about developing these habits is absolutely true. I encourage you guys to use it to up your LinkedIn game. It is a great way to do it. And again, I thank everybody. Bill, thank you so much for your endurance. I know you do a lot of these webinars and you drop a lot of this knowledge, so I appreciate it very much. Thank you for your friendship, and we appreciate you guys very much. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and have an awesome afternoon.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much. Thanks, Raj.